basketball coaches and players, today I am going to be breaking down Anthony Davis's three-point shot and his shooting form. Let's get down and let's check out how Anthony Davis shoots the basketball. Okay, so the first thing that I always look at is the feet, and then what we are going to do is look at the feet and then build our way up to his shooting point, or what some players call his set point. So first off, what we are looking at is his feet. And what do we see with his feet? Well, both feet are pretty well facing towards the basket, and his left foot is slightly out just a little, which is fine. The most important foot to have straight towards the rim is this one in most cases, because that's going to allow you to line up your body to that rim. So what we are going to move up from here is his knees. Now, something that we do notice is that both of his knees come together, which a lot of players do have that happen. Now, why that happens usually is when players are younger, the outside of their legs are a lot stronger, and because of that, their legs bow in. Now, if you don't want to have that happen to you, or if you want to have more strength behind your shot, what you can do is to do some wall sits with a basketball between your knees, and that's going to build up the interior of your legs, which is very important and a very underserved muscle or underused muscle when vertical jump training is happening or you're doing it. And of course, every muscle does help with jumping higher. Next, we look at the hips, and what we can see here is pretty well both of his hips as well as his shoulders are square with the basket. And what I mean by square to the basket is the fact that they are roughly the same distance to the basket. Next, we're going to see what happens when he gets from his triple threat and goes into his set point. So from here, what we see is the ball travels up the middle of his body. Now, some players prefer going up the middle of their body. They feel like it's got more power, while other players prefer, like Klay Thompson, prefer to bring it up on the right side. Now, I'm going to say that I always prefer players to bring it up the side of their body, and I'm going to explain to you here why. And that is because here what we see is his elbow bending when he's moving his shoulder. So we have two hinges here. We have a hinge in his shoulder and a hinge in his elbow. And the more movement that you have in your shot, I'm going to tell you right now that there's more probabilities of things happening. It's just like a car. When you've got more technology, more things can happen. So what we have here is he bends his elbow and his shoulder at the same time. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, Anthony Davis is a phenomenal shooter, and I'm not dinging him for playing on the Lakers or playing with LeBron or anything. I'm not being a hater. I'm just stating some points. And from there, he brings up the ball up the middle of his face, and I'm going to say that his set point, even though it's a one-motion shot, which means that it's all one motion, there's no stopping until roughly he gets there, and then he stops for about a frame. But that could be just this going into a slower motion or just the way that the video was captured. So I'm not going to be really commenting on that part. However, I'm going to say that his set point is roughly about there. And that means that his set point is right over or right roughly in front of his eye. So for some players, they may find that a shooting form like Anthony Davis cuts off their vision of being able to see the basket, while other players do prefer having that ball in front of their right eye. Now, just a quick point on why this player, Anthony Davis, is bringing the ball up the middle of his body. A lot of young players shoot from the chest and push from there. And the next step after that is to move more into a one-motion style shot like what we see with Anthony Davis. So I don't think anybody has really taken him aside and tried to bring that ball over to his right side to lift it up, to have less movement. But again, Anthony Davis is a very good shooter. So at this point in his career, there is no sense in trying to change his shooting form if I was one of his shooting coaches. The only thing that I may change is when he shoots that ball, he brings his hands down right away. Usually you would want to have your hands stay up into the air longer because that's going to allow you to have a more accurate shot. Because some players will shoot the ball and pull their hands down too early, and that would affect their shot. So that's the only thing I would really tell Anthony Davis to do if I was one of his shooting coaches. Now, what we see with his hands. So when he goes up for that shot, his fingers are pretty well spread apart until it comes to the middle two fingers, and then we have the pinky finger or the small finger spread out once again. So I'm going to say here, before we even get into his shot, he is probably shooting with these two fingers right here as the last points of contact on the ball. But we're gonna see. Just give us a few seconds and we'll check this out. Now, when he's starting to go up with his shot, we see that left hand release or let go of the ball. So he is a 100% one-hand shooter. So his left hand has none at all, no effect at all on that ball. And as I was mentioning earlier, his last two touch points on the ball are his ring finger or his second last finger and his middle finger. So like I was mentioning earlier, for players who shoot with these two fingers here, these two fingers here, you will most likely find a greater or higher percentage shooting form if you do release with those two fingers to keep them closer together. That's just a quick tip if you are one of those players who do shoot with those two fingers touching the ball last. If you don't know if you're touching those two fingers last on the ball, what I want you to do is to go out and record yourself shooting. Record a front view, a side view, and a back view. And what that's going to do for you is to be able to see what your shooting form is really like. If you're looking to get more arc on the ball, when you shoot, try to have your elbow finish above your eyes. Next is what I just mentioned there. Are you a ring finger and middle finger shooter? Are you a pointer and middle finger shooter? Or are you just a middle finger shooter? Because if you're a ring finger and middle finger shooter, you want to keep those a little bit tighter and these two outside fingers a little bit wider. Next, if you are a two-finger shooter when it comes to a middle and pointer, you generally want to have those two a little bit closer together and these two fingers more spread out. And then if you are a middle finger shooter, which I prefer, and I prefer to teach because it's the longest finger on your hand. So in just theory, that, and I would say in my experience, that's going to be allowing you to have a more consistent shot, mainly because if you are shooting with two fingers releasing from the ball last, what usually happens there is now you've got 2 points of contact where if it goes off just this finger, you've got a higher probability of going right, and if it goes off the middle, it'll probably still go straight. If you're a two-finger shooter with your pointer and your middle and you get hit in the air or whatever happens, and you are then able to now shoot and have it roll off your pointer finger instead of both of these fingers, now it's going to miss left. But I'm going to be breaking this down in a future video anyways. I hope that you have enjoyed. If you have, hit that like button and subscribe, and I'll see you guys again next time.